Nothing is a monolith, no place is a monolith. And it's really like we should be giving more of, we owe so much to the South and to the people who are there that we get to live as comfortably, if comfortably, anywhere else.
And when you just said a very important word,
Hmm.
power. Nothing is more powerful than the people. Sometimes that power has to be embraced and recharged and owned. But when you sit there and you actually look at the reality of things, power is with the people.
Hello, poets of the internet. I'm Diesel Carson, and this is Eponymous, an all-word podcast series interested in poets, the title poems of their collections, and how their work finds its way into our hands. Today's special Juneteenth episode is on Praisesong for the People, Poems from the Heart and Soul of Texas, edited by Amanda Johnston. Amanda Johnston is a writer, visual artist, the 61st Texas Poet Laureate, and founder of Torch Literary Arts. Hi, Amanda. How's
Hi.
it going?
Thank you so much for having
Of
me.
course, I have to say that you're working with this collection. You're working with one of my favorite of the small presses, Host Publications.
Oh, yes. Host does beautiful work. I'm so grateful to them. Shout out to Anar and Claire
Mm-hmm.
for quickly answering the call and saying yes and putting out this anthology in a year, which is
Oh
unheard
wow.
of if you know about
Yeah,
publishing.
no, that's it. And to get all that organized and for it to create such a gorgeous product. So
And
it's look.
the nice thing was the project already existed, so the great poems were already
Okay,
there.
great. So
So
they
that
just had
helped.
to put it together in the physical form. Oh,
Yes.
that's really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we love to see it.
It made it so
Yeah,
beautiful.
I've
Yeah.
loved how accessible the project is for folks to
Mhm.
reference. So that's been really great. I would first love, since this is called Praise Song for the People, if you could explain for the listeners here what a praise song is or what it entails. Is it just another way to say ode, or is there something specific to the aim of a praise song that ode doesn't quite capture?
Right. So praise song, the specificity is on the person
Mm.
usually. So that's what makes it a little different from an ode, where you could call it an ode essentially is praise, but the odes written about anything, right? Any and everything, which are beautiful. But a praise song historically has been on a person,
Mm.
right? And it comes from ancient tradition, as old as oral history has been around, which is from the beginning, right? How we communicate praise songs have been there to praise people, to praise deities, to praise some personhood, right? So for the project, obviously, I wanted to focus on the people all across Texas. So that's why I praise song instead of
Oh,
ode.
that's great. Is it also sounds so nice. I love the energy that Praise Song brings to the project.
Mhm.
Is this a form or tradition that you yourself have written in a while for a while?
Actually,
Oh,
no.
great.
And that was one of the things I wanted to challenge myself with. We need each other as a species, right? But then when it comes time to give someone their flowers, we typically do that when they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want to wait. And so I wanted to rise to the challenge of what happens, especially in trying times, when we pause and look to our neighbor, look to our people, and say, wait a minute, I'm actually not alone. I see you, and there's so much to praise for you just being here.
I like what you're saying there about not waiting until someone is gone to give them their flowers, which I think happens so often to the people that we love. What does it mean to you, especially with this being about everyday people, to give people their flowers while they're here, or just to take the time out of your day to give someone that praise? Yeah.
So I have to say too, when and the prompt that I gave to all of the poets, so commissioned 70 poets to be a part of the project. And I said for everyday people, what I meant was not a notable
Mm-hmm.
figure, a celebrity, a political figure, someone that is known in community and society. I wanted it to be for the unsung heroes who are just living their lives and by proxy making it better for all of us,
Yeah.
right? So to take time and as these poets, these incredible poets, all of them at various different stages of their careers,
Mhm.
right? There's several other poets laureate featured in the collection. There are several poets whose first publication is the
Mm.
anthology, different styles of writing, but to have them all use their incredible talents to say, wait a minute, I know exactly who I'm going to think, who I want to do this for, and I want to give them their flowers through my creative practice, through my art. So there's something really powerful in that, to know going in that it's going to be a
Yeah.
gift to someone. I wanted the people to receive
Yeah.
them, right? To get that moment and to see what happens. We always see these wild things pop
Mhm.
up from time to time. Why do we need
Mhm.
poetry? Is poetry dead or whatever? And it's all false. It's all a lie. It's just clickbait. But you can see it in real time. Write a poem for someone
Yeah.
and give it to them, let alone publish it and have it out for the whole world to see, but give it to them and see what
Yeah.
happens. It's a very powerful connection that happens, and that's what I'm most concerned with in anything that I do, is the connection that we then get to have as a result of
Yeah.
it.
It's beautiful seeing the way people's eyes light up when you're like, "Oh, I wrote this about you."
We had that happened several
Oh.
times as well with the anthology. I think of many of the poems where they did give them to the people they wrote on, or they came to the event and got to hear it live in person, and just tears and
Hmm.
hugs and joy and gratitude, and it's just, again, affirming and moving to know that is still here with us.
We love signs that we're still being thought of, that we're still on somebody's mind. There's a whole thing that's like, if someone pops up on your brain, either call them or send them up a prayer or write them a poem. We can write them a poem.
Write
Write
them
them
a
a poem and see
poem.
what that
Yeah.
does. I had a professor that used to say, so much of history is made by people we'll never hear about. And really thinking
Mhm.
about when we're thinking about moving away from talking about only the notable figures, is that so much of our daily lives are made up about people who they don't have books written about them, poems written about them. But why not? They're just as special to our the functioning of our lives as anybody else. I really appreciate what the project here encourages about the way that we regard one another. Any one of us is worthy of that kind of attention.
Absolutely, and also that poetry are not only meant to live in books and on the
Yeah.
shelves, they live in life. So when you are writing, listen to this, poets out there, please don't only be writing for publication, for this to go into your next collection or into that coveted journal and magazine. Yes, we do that, and the work lives in that way, but give it directly from your hand to someone.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe, you have to feel it, the power that happens in that,
Yeah.
because 'cause you're being vulnerable
Yeah.
and they're being open to receive it.
Yeah, the gift of that language is. We're in such a strange little genre, we all want everyone wants to be the next big national thing, but it's helpful to remember like so much of our work is actually supported by locally. It's supported by people who know us and read us and tell other people
Mhm.
about us. In the same way, we support other people locally, right? So like giving that to someone that you know in person, that will do worlds of wonder more than maybe the best poem in some publication. It doesn't mean as much to them as the one you put in their hand. Yeah.
Yeah. I started writing poems, praise poems, every time that I was traveling to a different part of Texas
Mm.
for the project. So I actually did that. I went around across the entire state and scheduled readings for the project. And when I was traveling there, I would write a poem in praise of, and all of mine were of strangers.
Oh, lovely.
Is what it made me do, is be an intentional witness.
Mm.
And that's something that I wanted to do. So again, the sending the work out for publication is great and important. Don't get me wrong. That's how we document and preserve
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
work and share it with a larger audience. But the art is actually happening in the making
Yeah.
while you're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the impetus for this project? Was there a specific event or inspiration that prompted you towards the
Mhm.
project?
When I got the news that I was going to be Texas Poet Laureate in 2024, I wanted to do something that was diverse, inclusive, and representative amongst all of the many people that call Texas home.
Mm.
I wanted to do something to amplify poets across the state, knowing so many poets could be poets laureate, and that we have many incredible poets, and those who don't know yet that they're poets, but maybe will be inspired to start writing once seeing the project and being invited to listen and hear or have a poem written about them, right? But I wanted to do something that was expansive for this very large state, inclusive of the many different diverse poets across the state, and through them, their incredible intersectional diverse communities. So that's what first started. And then to say, okay, what do they do? Praise poems, celebrating the people that make this place wonderful. I travel a lot. And so people will ask me like, oh, you live in Texas, how's that going? And they'll have this like concerned look on their face. And
Yeah.
depending on what mood I'm in, I can laugh or I can give a face back. I was born in East St. Louis, but raised in Texas. I was raised in Austin, and this is my home. And this is where I raised my family. My husband and I are here, and we raised 2 daughters here. And I know that there are millions of amazing people in this state who love on each other, care for each other, look out for each other. Why wouldn't we want to praise them? And so I wanted more people to see them
Yeah.
in that light, right? And so now I think it's a great thing having the book, that when someone asks me that question, I can just hand them the
Right.
book.
So look at it here. How do I feel? This is how it's
This
going.
is
Yeah.
Texas.
Yeah.
This
Something that
all of
is, I think, worth mentioning and emphasizing that we've said a couple of times already is that this book is a book of poetry that celebrates the people of Texas specifically, which I do think is important to the book's kind of energy and aim. And as we discussed this book, we are also thinking about Juneteenth. So, a holiday celebrated by Black people, particularly descendants of the enslaved, that has its roots in Galveston, Texas. As you think about the project around this book, and this is not to suggest that one led to the other, but what does this project mean for you as you think about celebrations of freedom in this country? And then to push it further, what conversations do you think the poems of this anthology are having with the idea of freedom in this country? Yeah.
One of the things that I'll do as a temperature check, even for myself, is that if you ever want to know how free you are, check how often you bite your tongue. Can you speak freely? Can you write freely? Right? We are descended from folks who, the only demographic in this country that was lawfully, legally forbidden from writing or learning to read, punishable by death.
Yeah.
So to write and to share and to praise, right? In all situations, if you read the collection of the poems, there are some really amazing poems that are praising folks who stood next to us in protest. Shout out Eris King, right? Houston, former Houston poet laureate. Praise for trans kids, by Gabby. And the first line is like, who else would I praise? And we know that there are folks who are under attack, right? A great poem in the anthology by Kennan about nuns at the border, right? But I also want folks to remember it's not that the poems are political, the people are not actually political, but people's personhood and experiences are politicized, right? So when we're talking about freedom, what is freedom in this moment, in this day, while we're living in a time where they're saying words are banned, books are banned, highest book bannings ever, right? Education is under attack. Libraries and books are under attack. To say, no, I am going to write freely and I'm going to do it with joy and praise. That is a radical, powerful act. That I think gets us closer to that idea of freedom that we are still on a path to. We have not achieved it yet. And for every accomplishment, every success, every step of progress, ask yourself, how often do you have to bite your tongue? How often? And what is that pressure from a known power that is doing that? So for me, the book was mostly a concentration on what I am for then. I'm for us. I'm for the people. I'm for expressing ourselves freely and doing it all with joy and love.
Yeah, and thinking about this project as an extension of love and liberation as an extension of love, right? An ability to say, I love my fellow man so much that I want them to feel as free as I do, or as we can
I want
possibly.
them to
I want
be
them to be
free.
free. Yeah, not just feel free. I want them to be free. That's a great distinction. I appreciate that. Yeah, I want them to be free. And so many of the laws that we work against are, in their own ways, limiters on love, right? It's working
Mhm.
against the kind of liberation that we want for all of our people.
The creative work of poetry and writing is putting it all down so that erasure cannot, like, literally, physically, you be seen. You would have to go back and erase the words, but that still can't erase me. So it's documenting our
Hmm.
presence, our communities, our personhood, again, through a radical freedom rooted in love and joy. Everything starts there. My fight, which is a fight for justice, liberation, and equality, comes because of love, because of what I am fighting for, right?
Hmm.
And until we all can have access to that life where we can love freely, live freely, create freely, then none of us truly have it.
Yeah, yeah. Something thing I think about, because you're the editor of this large project, 70 poets, and of course, editing something like this is no easy feat. But I'm sure there is love for all the contributors that make a thing like this happen. But I was wondering, were there any poems in particular in the collection that have stayed with you, or that you feel like you return to often?
Oh my gosh, yes. They're all incredible, but we all carry our own stories
Mm,
too. So there are ones that I feel really deeply in my spirit. And one praise song for the cleaning lady
hmm.
by April Sojourner Truth Walker is fantastic. It's just what the title indicates. It's about this moment where she is looking for a safe place to nurse her newborn
Yeah.
son. And the cleaning lady doesn't just tell her, oh, there's a bathroom over there, there's a place, but guides her to a safe place and then comes back and checks on her. And that moves me every single time because I feel in it, like, as a mother, I have two daughters, their protectiveness of your child in that moment, but then also that vulnerability is, I need to feed my
Yeah.
child. This is a very guttural, basic need
Mm,
that is bigger than anything else right now in the world. And to have another human being who doesn't know you see that, but knows what's happening, see that and care for you. Ugh, I love it. It gets me every time. And then another is by Logan Cure, um, incredible poet from Dallas, and their epistolary poem. So it also has very different
right. Yeah.
forms.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Hmm.
that's the other thing. A praise poem can be any shape, any form, as long as the subject in the center is
Yeah.
praise. So Logan wrote an amazing epistolary poem for the professor of their uh, classic queer lit course at Texas A&M, and thanking them. There's a great line in the poem that goes something like, "Thank you for giving me the context of myself,"
Mm,
and just that being seen in such a way because someone else is brave enough to walk openly
yeah.
your life,
Yeah.
and what permission that then was granted. Oh, is extraordinary. And then I found out that Logan did share the poem with their
Oh.
professor and that they had not spoken since over what, almost 20
Yeah.
years since they had been in class.
Hmm.
So again, poetry can transcend time and space.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why I love this collection. It's just
Mhm.
us putting words to the way that someone has impacted our lives. And Praise of the Cleaning Lady was one of those ones that's, oh yeah, like this is such a particular moment of connection between these two strangers, right? Which I think is probably some of the most important connections we can actually make, is the way that we connect with
Oh
people
yeah.
that we don't know at all. and may never see again, right? I think that's really where things show up for us. It's easy to maybe to love the people we've known forever, but how do we love someone who maybe except for the 5-10 minutes that you interact, you may never see them again.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And how can that guide us in how we treat those
mm-hmm,
moments, right? Because they matter. There's over 8 billion people in the world. And of those 8 billion people, your actual circle, whether they're friends or family or colleagues, coworkers, people just that are in the general vicinity of your life, I want to say the number's around 200
oh
something.
wow,
It's less than 300
mm,
people. That's your circle out of 8 billion. And then within that, you have the people who you actually live with, your family, your friends. Now that gets down under 100
mm-hmm,
people, right? So when you start thinking in those terms, that's also the only people that really know you're alive.
mm,
And you in turn see them and know that they're alive.
mm,
They're not a number, they're a person in your life. So, with the magnitude of that, then how do you treat each
mm,
other? If that is your circle, that very small circle out of 8 billion, how do you treat each other?
yeah,
Right. And then that will multiply and multiply. The power of poetry. I think often with the power of poetry, there's so many things I could point to, but the incredible poet Santiago Baca is incredible. He was writing in his memoir about being in prison and that there was a pivotal moment where he was almost going to kill someone.
mm,
And then thought about it and said, a poet wouldn't do
hmm,
this.
wow,
A poet would not kill someone.
mm.
Ooh. So seriously, this is where the art and the work start changing you on a cellular
Yeah,
level.
the way you think, the way your thoughts. Yeah, no, that's he's a better
Mhm.
man than me.
It all I could really get far out there on it, but again, out of 8 billion people, we have a very small circle and we have so much power in how we conduct ourselves and what we create and how we care for each other in those circles.
Yeah. The last question I'll ask, we talked a lot today about the role that we feel poetry plays in bringing communities together and the power of poetry as a kind of connective tissue. And so, as you send this book now out into the world and more people start to learn about the Praise Song Project, what is it that you hope that these praise songs point us towards as we think about our neighbors locally and globally?
Well, one, I want you to, I hope that people who read the book, the poems, consider the everyday encounters and the people in their lives. Just start there, truly thinking about that. Oh, I read Naomi Shibnai's poem about the bus drivers in San Antonio. I ride the bus. There are bus drivers there, right? How do I talk to and what do I see and notice with the bus driver that I see every day? Do I know their name? If I get on this bus every day, maybe we start there, right? So I want them to first hopefully be reflected and think about their lives and the people in their lives, right? And then my work in the world is in
Mm-hmm.
poetry and in literature. But if you do something else, how can you use your talent, use that art to then make an impact? Maybe you bake, maybe you work in care services, maybe you work at a school, a lot of educators and folks there. So in that space, then what other thing can maybe you do and share that can add more visibility, more love, more care through your practice, the same way these poems did. Because I tell you right now, none of us get out of this life
Mm,
alone. We did not actually come into it
so true.
alone. We won't leave it alone. And how we are in this thing called life, as Prince would
Yeah, yeah,
say,
yeah.
is how we are caring for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to make decisions about that every single day. And if we hadn't thought about before, let's start now.
Yeah, it's never too late to start. Never too late.
Never too late to start. And then beyond that, the craft of the poems are incredible. This is a great tool for anyone who wants to look at the different types of poems that are included in the anthology. When you're looking at an incredible sonnet that's in here or a different style of poem, share that and then also talk about the additional work that it's doing. So it doesn't just end with craft, but what does the power of the art form allow us then to experience? These are individual vessels for empathy that we get to send out into the world. And I hope readers tap in and connect with it.
Lovely. Thank you. What a wonderful note to end on. Amanda, I really appreciate your time and your energy. And to close us out here, I would love if you could read us your poem from the anthology.
Sure. So they did. I almost didn't put a poem in the anthology because I was so focused on wanting it to be about the other poets and people. But I was like, okay, I have to, again, my practice and being vulnerable. Let me write a poem. So this is one of the poems I mentioned that were written while I was going to an event for a stranger. Bat crossing. 1 million bats, 2 million little wings flutter out from under the Congress Street Bridge in the blue-pink ombre of dusk. The photo in the Austin airport captured the moment so perfectly, I had to take a pic. In the frantic airport traffic, millions of little feet about to soar, I stop and fumble with my phone, apps, angles, my tiny desire to witness. The man sees me, stops, and waits. A flock of people moves around us. He waits, and for a few seconds, we hover on a tiny cloud of kindness. I get the shot, and we float on. Praise the little moments of seeing. Praise the pause and patience we share in the pixelated moments of life. A very short story with that. So I was in the airport, you heard the poem, but the man, he was just kind, he was gracious. He didn't rush past me when he saw me trying to take my photo. He just stood there. He saw me, and we both gave each other a moment to just be. Him seeing me, wanting my photo, me seeing him, and without saying, please let me get this, don't walk across the frame, please. And we just saw each other and allow for that grace, right? But when I was done taking the photo, I just turned to him and said, you're kind. Thank you. I wanted to verbalize what just happened. You were kind and thank you. And he nodded and he walked on. What got to the gate and got on the plane, and he was sitting right next to me on that plane. Elbow to elbow.
That's crazy.
And yes, and I thought about that. And again, what if that moment had been negative? What if he had been hurried or on his phone and not paying attention? And then what if I had been rude? Oh, go around me, or why do you got to cut in front of me? You see, I'm trying to do this. I'm human too. We all have emotions. What if that had been a negative interaction? And then we are on this plane for 3 hours together. So it was just a very tangible and loud acknowledgement that we are closer, so much closer than we realize. And you have so much more in common with people than you don't. And when we truly do see the power that the people have is when we'll know that and embrace that.
Perfect. Thank you all for listening to this Juneteenth episode of Eponymous, a series of the Old Word podcast produced by me, D-Soul Carson. The music for Eponymous and Old Word is provided by Esoteric Creations. Check them out on Spotify. If you are interested in this collection, our guests would like to encourage you to check out all of the 70 poets featured in this collection. A good place to start is the anthology's website, Praisesong For the People.com, where you can see the work featured in the anthology, along with free lesson plans related to the collection and other resources. Thinking about this holiday, I would like us all to consider what freedom and liberation looks like as we witness injustices across the globe. Ask yourself, who is still waiting for their freedom to be delivered? And what are we doing to help everyone get free? O-Word is enjoying a summer break to rest and prepare new episodes to drop in the fall. Until next time, keep reading, keep writing, and thanks for listening. Our guest Amanda leaves you with this writing prompt.
Make a list of everyone you see in one day and include something to praise about each person.